Hey you guys, today I'm so excited. We will be reviewing the latest diode laser from Creality. This is the Creality Falcon 2 Pro. Now, when they reached out to me and they asked me if I want to review this laser, I was super excited because I worked with them before and I reviewed their other two lasers, the original Creality Falcon 2. I reviewed the 22 watts and the 40 watts, and this is the 40 watt version. So I'm going to take you around the machine, show you around the machine. We'll talk about the good, the bads, what's new, and we'll also show you some projects that I did, some testing. So let's go do that right now. Now, when the machine arrived and I unpacked it, I was a little bit nervous because I was pulling out pieces and I thought I have to put together the laser, but the laser was already assembled. The only thing I had to put together was this top cover. Now, the top cover, it goes together something like this. They have really good instructions. It was really easy to put together and it took basically no time. The rest of the machine, it's already all assembled as it comes from the box. Now, the first thing you will notice about this laser is that it's fully enclosed. This is an FDA Class 1 safety certified. That means you do not have to wear your safety glasses with it. When it's fully enclosed, it protects your eyeballs with all this plexiglass. And this plexiglass, it wraps around 360, so you can see your laser working from anywhere in the shop. Now, the design of this cover, it's a little bit different than other lasers that I reviewed. This one opens with this sliding door. And I think the reason why they came up with this versus a lid that just open upwards is because now you can have this on a cabinet, let's say, under some shelves, and you do not need that extra space to open up a lid. And I think that is a really, really cool design. Now let's give you a quick tour of the machine. On the left side over here, we have the logo Creality Falcon 2 Pro. Then on the right side, we have the emergency key button, so you can lock your machine so your little children cannot come and, accidentally turn on the machine by pushing buttons. You have the stop button, the emergency stop button. You have the homing and the moving positions of the laser buttons over here, the frame button. And then on the right side, let me move you around. Now on the right side of the machine is where you can plug in the mini SD card that comes with all the instructions, with the drivers that you need to install this to your computer. It comes with a few recommendations of what kind of settings you should use for which materials and a whole bunch of other good information. Then over here we have the cable that connects your machine to the computer. Over here is the power cable, and then we have the on and off button. And then on the right side of the hood over here is where your camera USB cable gets connected, and you plug that into your computer. This laser machine does have a camera, so that is super, super nice. On this side over here, it has a button, and you can see that we have a light that we can turn on. The light, it's a LED strip. I don't know if you can see it on camera. There's the light. Turn it off, turn it on. And on the left side of the machine, we have the fan. This is a button that you can turn the fan on. So listen for the fan. So that is our fan for our exhaust. Then we have our air assist. So this is plugged in the machine and this is the hose for it. And then we have our exhaust hose over here on the side and the back. Now inside of the machine we have, of course, the camera. It's mounted right here on the roof of the cover. And then our laser module, this is the 40 watts like I said. We have triple intelligent monitoring. We have these lights over here. This one is red right now because the air assist is not going. Oh, I forgot to mention, air assist also has this dial on the side that you can increase the power or decrease the power of your air assist. So triple intelligent monitoring, it will let you know when you do not have sufficient air, when the air it's clogged, or if you need to increase the power of your air. It has a fire alarm. If it detects fire, it will turn red, it will beep, the machine will stop. And then it also has this lens monitoring. When your lens gets dirty from all the fumes and stuff that deposits on the lens and it's time to clean it, this will turn red as well. On the top of the machine, we have these blue lights. I don't know if you can see, and one of them says precise and one says normal. And then there's this black button right behind them. If you hold down the button and push it and hold it down for a few seconds, now we're in the precise mode. This switches this unit to a 22 watt, so we have a smaller laser spot. It's better for engraving. And if you hold it back on, then it goes back to normal, so we're back at 40 watts. The focusing, it is manual focus, and it still has the little block that there was in the original Falcon 2. And basically, for engraving, you have to put the edge of your laser module onto the top block. This is for engraving or for cutting material 1 to 3 millimeters. Then if you cut thicker material, you will go to one of these, depending on your thickness of your material. So you loosen these two screws, set the laser edge of the laser module on it, and then tighten the screws, and that's how you focus your laser. Now for a pro laser, I did expect it to have maybe autofocus, but it does not. It still goes to the manual little block, so that's okay. It works really well. Just I wish they would have put autofocus. The engraving area is 400 by 415 millimeters, so quite a large area of engraving. And then if you notice here, we do not have a honeycomb grid on the bottom. The bottom, it's made from these slats, and they are kind of a V shape on the top, so you don't get a lot of burning marks on the bottom of your workpiece. And they work really well. You can adjust them how much distance you want in between them, if you want them closer or further apart. One cool thing about these bars is that makes it really, really easy to clean. You can pretty much collect all of these bars, throw them in your kitchen sink and clean them. It's so much easier than cleaning the honeycomb grid. Now, there is a downside to these bars that I found, and I will show you in a second. Right now, let me put this back. So we saw the bed is made from those slots, and then all the tiny pieces that falls off through the slots, you can clean them really, really easily with this super large, cool tray. This is my favorite feature about this machine. So easy to clean all your tiny pieces. You don't have to fish for them on those honeycomb grids. Really easy to clean in here. Now, one thing that I have to criticize about the design of this laser is the fact that I don't know what material the tray is from, but you can see I was doing lots of cutting, and I kind of marked my tray because the laser kind of cut through and it did put some scratches in it. So I would recommend getting one of those, let me see if I have one here. Get like a stainless steel plate and just put it on top of your tray, and that will protect it so you're not marking your tray. I wish they would have made this from stainless steel. But tray is super, super helpful. Really easy to clean your tiny pieces. I love that about this laser. The machine is not too big, and it weighs around 18 kilograms. So one person can easily move it if you so need so. Now with this laser, you don't just get one laser, you get two lasers. If you get the 40 watt laser, they will also include this 1.6 laser. And this is tiny compared with the 40 watt. Just look over here. Super, super tiny. Really easy to change. I'll put a clip on me changing it. You just pretty much just unhook this connection from the 40 watts from the machine and then plug this in and slide in the laser module. So super easy, fast to change lasers. Now, why is Creality including this second laser, the 1.6 watts? Well, when you have a laser that is 40 watts, the spot of the laser is pretty big. It's 0.1 by 0.15. When you have a bigger laser spot like that, then you can get a lot of detail on your engravings. It's like trying to draw fine hair with a Sharpie. You cannot do it as well as you would do it with a mechanical pencil. So because of that, they are including this smaller laser that you can do very, very precise engraving. Now, let's go into some of my testings. I'll show you what I tested the machine for and some of the projects that I've made with it. Now, the first thing I tested with this machine was the engraving, and I used the 40 watts, which is not that great for engraving, as I mentioned to you earlier. And this is the engraving it did with the 40 watts. It is really not bad. It's not the best engraving I've ever seen, but it's not bad at all. So if you just need to do simple engraving or put your logo on things or, personalized items, this is fantastic. You will have zero problem with the 40 watts engraving. It does a really decent job. Now, if you want to see the difference between the 1.6 watts for engraving versus the 40 watts, I engraved my website right over here, and that is done with the 1.6 watts. You can see how clean and crisp it is. And then here is with the 40 watts. Not as clean and crisp. It does have some charring. Let me get a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. See if we can clean that charring so you can see how the engraving looks a little bit better. There you go. That's the trick, you guys. Use some isopropyl alcohol. Will clean that stuff right up. Now it's wet, but you should be able to see it. So on the top, 1.6 watts engraving, 40 watts engraving. So you can see it's a little bit more fuzzy versus that nice crisp engraving that we get with the 1.6. But still really, really good. Like I said, you will have no problem engraving and personalizing things. Then I decided I was going to cut some pieces to make a little, because Mother's Day is coming, I wanted to do a little Mother's Day craft. So I cut this mother with the children. I found this file on Etsy. I thought it was super cute. It has it for, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5 children. You can cut the design. And I thought it was super, super cool. And of course, the laser had no trouble cutting all these intricate pieces. Very clean cuts. There's no burning. I didn't clean this one with isopropyl alcohol. This is how it came straight from the laser. So really, really good at cutting. And this is really what this machine excels at. I cut a few designs. And then also I engraved with the 40 watt and then cut the same design with hardwood. So I use a walnut for the base and then hard maple for the top. And I made this little Mother's Day thing. I don't know what it would be. But there you go. This is my first project that I did with this laser. Another thing I did with the laser is I made this kind of market tree. And this is made with veneer. This is very thin veneer that I bought. And I cut this design. And then I just glue it back together. I swapped the pieces. I made a whole bunch of these guys. Cut all the designs on this color, then with this color, with this color, this color. And then I just kind of swap the pieces and do this kind of market tree thing. Now for this one, I did not use the 40 watts. I used the 1.6 watts because it had a smaller laser spot. And it was able to cut through the very thin veneer with absolutely no problem. So that way I didn't have to do an offset. I just cut it and then swap the pieces. And it just kind of worked out. And then I glue it to some Baltic birch plywood that is walnut veneered. And I ended up with something like that that is going to become the lid of a box I'm making. Now, one problem I had in the past with lasers is that when you first start cutting, it cuts really, really well. And then after 1 or 2 hours of continuous usage, it seems to drop power. So let's say you're cutting hardwood and it cuts with 20 speed. After an hour or two, you have to down the speed to 11 to cut the same piece of wood. I do not know why this is happening, but I had this happening with other lasers in the past. So I set up on testing. So what I did is I cut tiny pieces for hours. I think it was like 3 or 4 hours I've been cutting pieces with it nonstop. So let me show you here. Tons of tiny pieces that I cut, and this is the ones I did not use. I had a lot more prior to this, and I'll show you what I did with them. Now, one of my favorite designs to cut with the laser is just these tiny triangles. And I started by cutting bigger triangles, and then they were too big, so then I went to the smaller ones. And this is 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 30 degrees angles. And with this one triangle, you can make so many designs. And without a laser, you just could never cut such a thing because it would not be safe to do it on the table saw. Here are some of the designs that I made with those triangles. This is canary wood, and you can see you get this 3D effect, really, really cool. So that is one that I did. This is some maple, really cool effect, and the black from the laser kind of makes the pieces stand out and separate. So this is done with the same triangle. And then I made a design where I used two colors, triangles. I will put the files if you want to download these patterns. I put in the description below. But here I use maple to make the stars, and then I use walnut to do the surroundings. And when you glue this, I glued it to contact paper. So the pretty side, when you cut a piece, you always have a side that has the charring, and then you have the pretty piece. Well, the pretty side I put down on the paper because that will become the face of the design. This is where the glue goes when you stick it to a different piece of wood. And I'll show you that in a second. So, but really cool design I made with just those triangles. Here is another one where I put a star in the middle and then did this 3D with walnut. All cut with this laser, cuts really, really well. And then here is where I did the same star, but then I put diamonds around it to make this hexagon shape. And then with these diamonds that I cut 3 different colors and made this cube 3D effect. One of my favorite designs to do with the laser. Here's another 3D effect that I did with this laser. This is aromatic cedar, and then I glued it to an aromatic cedar. So now we get this really cool effect. Here is one of those cubes designs that I already glued to a piece of walnut. So this is going to become a box lid. I also cut tiny squares of rosewood, and then I glue it to a piece of plywood, and then you get this kind of really cool effect. And I just alternated the grain, so I put one piece going on one direction, one the other. Here is another larger piece. This one does not have any finish on it, and it's dusty because it's been sitting here overnight. And then here's another one with wenge. I had so much fun with this laser. I've been cutting so much. Now here is a finished box that has the same triangle design on the lid. This is walnut and canary wood, and you see the handle, it has these tiny squares that I cut, and I put them on a piece of wood like this, and that's what I made the handle from. And then here is another one, the same triangles on a walnut box. So you see, when you think of laser designs and laser boxes, it doesn't have to be that 3mm, just plywood cut boxes. You can make some really cool stuff with exotic woods and get some really cool effects. Another thing I like to make with my lasers, it's inlay. Now this box, I did not make it with this laser. This one, I had it from a previous testing, a different laser, but you can totally do this with the Creality Falcon 2 Pro. And now that you saw the projects that I've made and how I tested this laser, I want to talk to you about the things that I don't like about this laser, because no review, it's an honest review without talking about the bad things. So to me, the bad thing about this laser, which is not really bad, it must be these rails that makes the bed of the laser. Although, like I said, they're very easy to clean, to me I prefer the honeycomb grid. And the reason why is when I was cutting these files, I spaced the rails a lot further apart, because in my head I thought that the further apart they are, the more airflow goes through and you'll get less charring and better cutting. Well, what happened is the pieces were breaking loose that I was cutting off from the design. They were kind of falling through the rails and they were sticking out a little bit. They were not completely down, but they were still sticking out. So then when the laser was going to cut around, I'll put a clip on it so you can see what I'm talking about. It was moving my piece around, and then of course it was not cutting the design right. So of course that's probably just my mistake for putting the rails too far apart. Once I saw that that happened, I took the rails and I put them closer together, and then I had no problems at all. Also, if you have the same problems with the rails and you purchase this laser, You could also just purchase a honeycomb grid off, the Amazon or whatever, a third-party honeycomb grid, and stick it in the bed, and that will solve two problems. One, you don't have to deal with these rails, and also the honeycomb grid comes with that stainless steel plate, so I'll have it on the bottom so you do not mark your tray. Now, like I said before, the 40 watts shines when it comes to cutting. It can cut 20 millimeter basswood in one pass. So really, really good at cutting. The 22 watt, it can cut 10 millimeter basswood in one pass. And let's talk a little bit about who this laser is for. Like I said before, they make two versions, a 22 watt and a 40 watt. If you're doing mostly cutting like I do, if you do cutting, if you do inlays, and especially with thicker materials, then I think the 40 watts is best suited for you because you really can cut a lot of material. Now, like we saw, the engraving is not that fantastic from it, but I don't do engraving, so for me, that is not a problem. Also, because it comes with a 1.6 watt laser, you could do engraving if you need it. If you need to do very precise engraving, you do have the tiny module. Now, with the tiny module, the downside to that is the fact that you do have to change the module. And also because it's only 1.6 watts, it is a slower laser. So it will take a lot longer to engrave than it will on a 22 watt. If you find yourself that you need the laser mostly for engraving and you do some cutting here and there, well, the 22 watt might be the best option for you. It does a really good job with cutting and engraving, but it is only 22 watts, so that means it's a little bit slower than the 40 watts. For me, I always opted for the 40 watts because I pretty much use my laser at all times at 100% power, and then I adjust the speed accordingly. I want to use all the power so I can do the fastest job I can do because time is money and I don't want to waste time. So final conclusion about this laser, it is a great little laser. I think it's a laser that will last you for a long, long time. It does really, really good at cutting. As I said, that's what I use my lasers mostly for. And it does really good engraving too. It's not the best engraving, I'm gonna tell you that, and I showed you the results. It's not the best I've ever seen, but you do have the smaller module, so you could get really good engraving. It's just it's gonna be a little bit slower because you have to change the module, and 1.6 watts is not that powerful, so it goes slower. But you can get really good results. And also you have the option for the 22 watts, which is good all-around laser, but with less power. Now, I hope this was helpful to you and you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skylar Ewing. I'll see you in my next video.